"You're not man enough to handle my sexual past," she said, bragging about sleeping with 47 men. So I walked out, and she's been calling me insecure ever since while begging to come back. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The smell of coffee and sizzling bacon was the scent of our peace. Sunday mornings were ours. No work emails, no frantic schedules, just the quiet hum of the city outside our apartment and the soft sound of whatever indie playlist I had going. I stood at the stove, flipping pancakes, content in the simple, domestic rhythm of it. Sarah was curled on the couch, bathed in a square of morning light, her phone casting a bluish glow on her face. She'd been like that for an hour, scrolling, her thumb in endless, mechanical motion. There was a tension in her shoulders that had been there for a couple of weeks, a subtle stiffness when I'd touch her back, a shortness in her replies I'd written off as work stress. She was in marketing. Her job was a constant performance. I figured she just needed to recharge. I plated the food and brought it over, setting her plate on the coffee table. "Fuel for your scroll," I said, leaning down to kiss the top of her head. She barely acknowledged me, just gave a non-committal hum. I sat in the armchair across from her, digging into my own breakfast. I loved these quiet moments. I thought they were the foundation of us. The loud, passionate stuff was for movies. This, the comfortable silence, the shared space, this was real. After a few minutes, she put her phone down with a sigh. "Miranda is having her birthday party at the Vanguard next Saturday. We have to go." The Vanguard, a pretentious, overpriced club where a bottle of water cost $15. I grimaced. Oof. That place is a wallet emptier. Can't we just meet them for drinks after? Somewhere a human being can afford to breathe. Her eyes flickered up to me, sharp and unamused. "It's her birthday. We can't just meet them after." "It's rude." "I'm not being rude. I'm being practical," I said, trying to keep my tone light. "We're saving for a down payment. A night at the Vanguard is a month's worth of groceries. It's just not a smart financial decision." "That word again," she said, her voice dropping, losing all its warmth. "What word?" "Practical. Smart." She said them like curses. "Is that all you are? A spreadsheet with a pulse?" The attack was so sudden, so venomous, it threw me. Where is this coming from? I'm just being responsible. What's wrong with being safe? With making sure we have a future? Safe? She let out a short, bitter laugh. "God, you're so safe it's suffocating. You play life on the easiest setting. You have no edge, Alex. No fire." I felt my own defensiveness rise, hot and sharp. This wasn't about a party anymore. This was about me. What does that even mean? Because I don't want to blow $200 on cover charges and cheap vodka? What kind of edge do you want? Should I go rob a bank? Get into a bar fight? What? I was yelling now, my confusion curdling into anger. She looked at me, and for a second, I saw something terrifying in her eyes. Pure, undiluted contempt. It was like she was looking at a bug she'd found in her salad. "A real man," she said, her voice low and precise, each word a carefully aimed dart, "has experience. He has stories. He knows how to handle a woman who's actually lived. You." She let the word hang in the air, a universe of dismissal in a single syllable. "You're not man enough to handle my sexual past." The words didn't just land, they detonated. The air was sucked from the room. The cozy apartment, the Sunday morning peace, the future I thought we were building, it all shattered into a million silent, screaming pieces. I just stared at her, my mind a white-hot blank. I couldn't form a thought, let alone a sentence. She saw my speechlessness and mistook it for a victory. A smug, ugly little smile twisted her lips. She leaned forward, eager to twist the knife now that she knew it had found its mark. "There were 47 of them, Alex. 47. She said the number with pride, like it was a high score. "I lived a whole life before I settled down with you. I had adventures you can't even imagine. I've done things, been with men who had real passion, real danger about them. And you're just this." She gestured at me, at the apartment, at the half-eaten pancakes, encompassing my entire world in a single, contemptuous sweep. This. I was this. A placeholder. A bland, safe harbor after a storm of 47 adventures. The man she settled for. The calm that settled over me then wasn't peaceful. It was the dead, hollow silence at the heart of a detonation. The pain was so immense it had already bypassed my nerves and become a simple, factual truth. It was over. I looked at the woman I loved, the woman I'd planned to marry, and I saw a stranger. A cruel, small person who got her power from trying to break others. And without saying a word, I stood up and walked away from the table. The world had narrowed to a single, high-pitched tone in my ears. The cozy apartment, the morning sun, the smell of coffee, it all became a diorama behind a thick pane of glass. I was on the outside now. I had just been evicted from my own life by a single, vicious sentence. 47. Settled. You're just this? The words weren't just insults. They were a key, turning a lock I never knew existed, revealing a door out of a prison I hadn't realized I was in. The pain was there, a white-hot brand searing my heart, but it was instantly cauterized by a clarity so cold it was almost peaceful. I didn't look at her. I couldn't. Looking at her would be to acknowledge the person I thought she was, and that person was a ghost. Instead, I looked at the space we shared. The couch we'd picked out together, the bookshelf we'd assembled, the photo of us on the beach. It was all just set dressing for a play that had just ended in the middle of the second act. I pushed my chair back from the table. The screech of wood on hardwood was the only sound. I walked past her, my movements fluid and deliberate, as if I were moving through deep water. I entered our bedroom, and went to the closet. My old, army green duffel bag was on the top shelf, buried behind spare pillows. I pulled it down, the dust motes dancing in the sunbeam from the window. I unzipped it. The sound was loud in the silence. Then, I began to pack. I wasn't frantic. I wasn't throwing things. This was an exhumation. I took my jeans, my t-shirts, my sweaters from the dresser we shared. I left the shirt she'd bought me for my birthday. I took my work suits from the closet. I left the silly tie she said made me look like a librarian. I was curating the museum of my own life, deciding what artifacts were truly mine. From the bathroom, I took my toothbrush, my razor, the cologne I'd worn since college. I left the fancy face cream she'd insisted I try, the shared bottle of shampoo. I was erasing my presence, molecule by molecule. I could feel her watching me from the doorway. Her smugness had evaporated, replaced by a confused stillness. Alex. Her voice was small. What are you doing? I didn't answer. I folded a pair of chinos and placed them neatly in the bag. My silence was a wall. She took a step into the room. Oh my God, are you seriously that insecure? It's just a number. I'm with you, aren't I? Her words bounced off the calm that encased me. Insecure. She was trying to frame my departure as a character flaw, a failure of my masculinity. It was the only script she had. I continued packing, adding my laptop and charger from the nightstand. Her confusion curdled into panic. You're really going to walk out? You're really going to leave because you can't handle that I had a life before you? Her voice rose, sharpening with disbelief. That's pathetic, Alex. You're being a pathetic little boy. Pathetic. The word hung in the air, but it had no weight. It was just a sound. I zipped the duffel bag closed. The finality of the zipper's rasp was my only reply. I stood up, slinging the bag over my shoulder. It was heavy, but it felt good. It was the weight of my freedom. I turned and finally looked at her. She was blocking the doorway, her face a mask of anger and dawning horror. She was waiting for a fight, for tears, for anything that would prove she still had power over my emotions. I didn't give it to her. My gaze was flat, empty. There was no anger there, no hurt she could use as a weapon. There was only a profound, unbridgeable distance. I saw the exact moment she understood. Her eyes widened slightly. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a conclusion. I walked towards the door. She didn't move, forcing me to brush past her. The brief contact made her flinch. I walked through the living room, past the cold pancakes, past the ruins of our Sunday morning. I didn't look back. I opened the front door and stepped out into the hallway. The last thing I heard was her voice, shrill and breaking. Fine. Walk away, you coward. You were never enough for me anyway. The door clicked shut behind me. The sound was soft, gentle even, but it was the loudest, most definitive sound of my life. It was the sound of a life ending, and another one, harder and quieter, beginning. The first few days were a numb, gray static. I crashed on my buddy Mark's couch. The duffel bag slumped in the corner like a corpse. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just existed. The number 47 played on a loop in my head, not as a point of pain anymore, but as a puzzle. What kind of person keeps count? What kind of person uses it as a cudgel? The more I turned it over, the more the weight shifted from my shoulders to hers. It wasn't a trophy, it was a ledger, a record of emptiness. I blocked her number, her socials, every digital tether. It wasn't an act of anger, but of surgery. I was cutting out a necrotic limb to save the body. Her first attempt to suture the wound came a few days later, a text from an unknown number that could only be her. Unknown. Alex, I'm sorry. I was mad and I said something stupid to hurt you. You're overreacting. Can we please talk? I read it. My heart a dormant volcano. Overreacting. She was still framing my departure as a hysterical response, a flaw in my programming. She wasn't sorry for what she said. She was sorry I'd called her bluff. I deleted the message and blocked the number. A week later, a voicemail landed on my work phone. She must have looked up the main line. Okay, fine, I get it. You're hurt. Her voice was tight, strained. But you walking out just proves how insecure you are. A confident, secure man wouldn't be threatened by a number. He'd be proud he was the one I chose. Your insecurity is what's pathetic, not me. Call me back. Insecure. Her favorite weapon. But the blade was dull now. I saw the desperation behind the insult. She was following a script. He's insecure. He's weak. But I was no longer reading my lines. I saved the voicemail, not as a memento, but as a benchmark. A recording of the moment her confidence began to crack. The text started again, from another new number, 2 weeks in. Unknown. Alex, it's me. I'm going crazy. I miss you. It was just a number. Those guys meant nothing. You're the only one that mattered. You're the one I came home to. You're the one I love. Please, I love you. The shift was jarring. The insults had failed, so now came the love bombing. The nothing she'd bragged about was now a nothing she expected me to forgive. But the word love felt like a foreign language. You don't deliberately incinerate someone you love. I didn't reply. The silence was my answer. I started rebuilding. I went to the gym, channeling the confused energy into iron and sweat. I buried myself in work, taking on projects I'd been too comfortable to pursue before. I reconnected with friends, the ones she'd always subtly mocked for being unambitious. Their loyalty was a quiet, steady thing. They didn't ask for details, they just offered a beer, a game of pool, their presence. The internal shift was complete. The hurt was gone, replaced by a distant, academic pity. Sarah wasn't a villain, she was a tragic figure. The woman who built her identity on a body count was now realizing that numbers provide no warmth in an empty bed. Her empowered past was a ghost town, and she was the only one left in it. A month after I'd left, she ambushed me. I was at a coffee shop near my new office, reading a report, when a shadow fell over my table. I looked up. It was Sarah. She looked diminished. Her hair was lank. Her clothes looked thrown on. The sharp, contemptuous beauty she'd wielded like a weapon was gone, replaced by a frayed exhaustion. She'd lost weight, and it didn't suit her. Alex, she said, her voice a fragile thing. Please, just 5 minutes. I closed my report. I have nothing to say to you. I can't eat. I can't sleep, she whispered, her eyes welling up. She slid into the chair opposite me without invitation. I was an idiot. I was trying to seem cool or something. I was the one who was insecure. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I ruined it. I see that now. I ruined everything. She was crying in earnest now, silent tears tracking through her makeup. The performance was meant to elicit comfort, to pull me back into the role of her caretaker. I looked at her, my expression unchanging. Noted, the flatness of my tone seemed to shock her more than anger would have. The tears stopped, and her face hardened, the real her flickering through the mask of remorse. So that's it, she hissed, her voice low and venomous. You're just going to throw away 2 years because of one stupid fight? You're really going to be that cold? You really are as cold as you are insecure. There it was. The true colors, flashing like a warning signal. When the weeping damsel routine failed, the serpent returned. I stood up, gathering my things. I looked down at her, this woman who had once been my entire world, and I felt nothing but a vast, echoing emptiness. And then, for the first time, I smiled. It was a small, faint, pitying curl of the lips. Goodbye, Sarah. I turned and walked away, leaving her sitting there, surrounded by the ruins of her own making. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could feel her world unraveling, and the sound was like silence. The silence after the coffee shop was the most peaceful of my life. It wasn't the absence of sound, but the absence of her. The constant, low-grade static of her presence in my mind had been switched off. The world seemed sharper, the colors more vibrant. I was free. I focused on my new life with the same methodical precision I'd used to pack my duffel bag. The new apartment wasn't just a place to sleep. It was a sanctuary. I filled it with art I liked, books I wanted to read, and a silence that was mine alone. Work was no longer a job. It was a craft I was mastering. I started dating, not with the desperate energy of someone trying to replace a loss, but with the casual curiosity of someone exploring a new city. I met a woman named Elena, a graphic designer with a quiet confidence and a laugh that didn't feel like a weapon. We took things slow. It was easy. Sarah and the number 47 had become artifacts from a previous era. They held no emotional charge. They were just data points in the history of how I became who I was now. The only loose end was a small box of my mail that was still being delivered to the old apartment. I'd been putting it off, but after 2 months, it was time to sever the last physical tether. I unblocked her number, a clinical, administrative decision, and sent a single, neutral text. Me, I have a parcel box at the main post office. I'll text you the details. Please forward any remaining mail there. This will be my final message. I sent the address and reblocked her. The entire transaction took 15 seconds. I felt nothing. Less than a minute later, my phone rang. An unknown number, but I knew. I felt a flicker of annoyance, like a mosquito buzzing in a quiet room. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but I knew this was the final ghost that needed to be exorcised. I answered. For a moment, there was only the sound of ragged breathing, then a broken whisper. You win. Her voice was raw, stripped of all its former sharpness. Okay, you win. I'm nothing without you. I'm so alone. The girls, they don't get it. They think I'm dramatic. My family, they just look at me with pity. I have no one. I said nothing. I let the silence on my end be a canvas for her despair. Those 47 guys. She sobbed, the number now a confession, not a boast. It was the biggest mistake of my life. They were nobody. They used me and I let them because I thought it made me powerful. It didn't. It made me empty. You're everything. You were the only real thing. Tell me what to do. I'll go to therapy. I'll never say anything like that again. I'll do anything. Just please, don't leave me in this silence. I listened to the entire performance, the full arc from surrender to begging. There was no satisfaction in it. No schadenfreude. It was just noise. When she finished, the only sound was her wet, shaky breaths. Sarah, I said, my voice calm, clear, and utterly devoid of emotion. It was the tone of a librarian stating the closing time. She inhaled sharply, as if my saying her name was a lifeline. You need to understand something, I continued. This isn't about winning. It wasn't a competition. Then what is it about, she pleaded. It's about cause and effect. The problem was never the number. It was the weapon. The weapon. You used your past like a knife? I explained, my voice still flat, factual. You didn't share it with me. You stabbed me with it. And you were shocked when I didn't stick around to keep getting stabbed. That isn't insecurity. That's self-preservation. But I didn't mean it like that. It doesn't matter what you meant. I cut her off, not with anger, but with finality. It only matters what you did. You called me insecure for walking away from disrespect. I call it having self-respect. And I've built a life now where that number, that night, and you are completely irrelevant. The word hung in the digital space between us. Irrelevant. It was the truest, most devastating thing I could have said. I don't believe you, she whispered, but it was weak. She could hear the truth in my voice. You don't have to. My peace isn't your business anymore. The chapter is closed. Do not contact me again. There was a choked sound, a final, gasping breath from the woman I used to love. I ended the call. I didn't block the number. I didn't need to. The conversation was over. The connection was severed. I placed my phone on the counter and looked out the window of my apartment. The city lights were beginning to twinkle in the dusk. Down on the street, I saw Elena walking toward my building, a smile on her face as she looked up and saw me. I smiled back. Then I turned and went to answer the door, leaving the ghost of Sarah and her 47 specters in the silent, indifferent past where they belonged. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.